This is part of the series of tutorials that provide an overview of the Infinity Analyze capabilities and features. In this tutorial, we'll take a detailed look at the exposure adjustments. Setting the correct image exposure is an important step to obtaining optimal image quality. Within the Infinity Analyze application, we have several adjustments on the camera control pane to control the exposure. First, let's look at the manual exposure adjustment slider. Clicking the mouse on this slider and moving the slider position up to the right allows the exposure time to increase and the image from the camera brightens. Moving the slider down to the left shortens the exposure time and decreases the image brightness. For each objective or filter combination you have set up on your microscope, you can manually adjust the exposure for best image illumination. An alternative is to use the continuous auto exposure function provided by Infinity Analyze. When this feature is enabled, the camera analyzes the output from each frame and tries to set the average pixel intensity to match the value specified on the slider. Once again, moving the slider position up to the right means that the average scene brightness will be lighter, and moving the slider down to the left means that the scene brightness will get darker. For optimal performance from the continuous auto exposure, visit the Help Settings menu. The option here under Continuous Auto Exposure Upper Limit can be reduced, in most cases, to a much lower value than the 500 millisecond default. What this means is that as the microscope is switched between objectives by rotating the turret, the auto exposure will take the exposure up to longer exposure times, but by limiting the upper exposure value that will be used by the camera, it means the application responds much more quickly to the change in light level when the light reaches the camera. We'll disable the continuous auto exposure, and now the actual exposure time is displayed in the exposure slider. Once again, we can make manual adjustments if we prefer. There's a gain setting under the camera controls also, and this provides an amplification to the signal coming from the camera. If the light level for your particular application is quite challenged, it's possible to apply a gain value either using the slider or typing a value in numerically into this field to adjust the amplification on the signal coming from the camera and thereby brightening the image. We'll caution you to not use a gain value that is too high because you may begin to notice noise in the image. To control the gamma output from the camera, there's a slider and a numerical input field also. By default, the application starts with a gamma value of 1.5. This setting is suitable for display on most older CRT monitors, but you may find that it gives a bit of a washed out image on a flat panel or LCD display. Using a reduced gamma value will boost the contrast of the image. A minimum of a gamma of 1 should be used under most applications, but a gamma value of anywhere between 1 and 1.5 is suitable. That concludes this tutorial on exposure adjustments. Be sure to check some of the other tutorials in this series for some of the other camera controls and application functions.